Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new. I am back today with another plant video. It is currently pouring rain outside and I'm a little bit bored stuck in the house. So I decided to propagate a bunch of my plants, and I thought you guys could just hang out with me while I sort through these and I can give you a few propagation tips. I already have all of the plant cuttings here in front of me, so I'm going to show you a bunch of the things that I am propagating and then tell you my favorite ways to propagate each kind. Here I have in front of me, I have some jars of water. I have these little basket pots for leca. I have these little plastic cups that I got from the party section at Walmart. I use these with the net pots for some leca propagations. And then I also have a couple of homemade prop boxes or terrariums, and I just made these out of old food containers. I believe they were chocolate covered pretzels or cookies, something like that, but really you can use any plastic container that has a lid. And I always wash them really well first and get all the sticker residue off, and then I like to poke little holes in the lid just with a hammer and a nail. Be careful though, don't hurt yourself doing that. What I like to do is put a layer of perlite or leca at the bottom, and then you can put soil or sphagnum moss on top, whatever you prefer. And then you just kind of spritz it every once in a while to keep it moist. Currently this one got a little too wet, so I am going to leave the lid off for a couple days. You just want to make sure that none of them are staying too wet or they will mold. And I'm going to use this one because I took a few string of hearts cuttings. That's what I currently have in here. This first one that I just picked up is a Enjoy Pothos cutting, and this one has several on here that I can take. What I'm going to be doing is cutting in between each of these little bumps on the stem, and these are the nodes, and this is what we need to propagate this plant and ensure that it can grow roots and continue to grow. So just going to very carefully snip in between, and I'm going to add that before you do this you should probably clean whatever scissors you're using. I'm just using a pair of old kitchen shears, and I didn't clean mine because I like to take risks in life. Just kidding, it's because I'm lazy. But if you're cutting a rare plant or an expensive plant, I would definitely recommend you clean whatever utensil you're using beforehand, and then whichever plant you cut, you can also put cinnamon on the wound basically to ensure that it doesn't get infected. Anyway, so I will be snipping carefully in between all of the nodes. So here's one that I just cut off. You can see it just has one little node there. So I'm going to cut in between all of those now. And then when you get to the end of a vine, usually the nodes are really, really small, and I might just keep this all as one cutting. But what I like to do with vining plants like this, so any type of like pothos or Monstera adansonii, that kind of thing, I just like to stick them in water. So I am going to put them right in here, and then I usually change the water for my cuttings about twice a week. At least once a week I would say is good, but you just want to make sure you're keeping it clean so there is no bacteria or algae growing in the water, and I find this helps a lot to prevent rot. If you want to go a step even further, you could leave your cuttings out for a few hours and let them kind of scab over before you put them in water. You can even dip the ends in some form of wax. I am just gonna toss these right in the water. It works for me, so it just depends on what level you're comfortable with. See here, I also have some Scindapsus moonlight cuttings thrown in this pile, and I didn't take too many, So I think I will probably just throw these right in the water as well. And if you want to get fancy, you can switch it up and do a different jar of water for every plant. I like to just throw a bunch in together. That way I don't have a million jars sitting around. At any given time, I do have probably 10 or 20 jars of water sitting around my apartment. Luckily, I have a partner who does not mind that. Here is a little Monstera Adansonii cutting, and this one I actually already had in water. I just needed to switch it out into fresh water, but you can see where the roots are starting to come in. Right there off of the node. I'm just gonna plunk this guy in there as well. I have some philodendron Brazil cuttings and some philodendron micans, Cebu blue, and then I have a little exotica cutting. This is because my big one started throwing out these runners because this side of the plant wasn't getting enough light. So I pretty much just trimmed this off because I thought it was ugly. But I'm gonna grow it into a new plant. This jar is pretty full, so we're gonna set this one aside. Sometimes I like to sort them by like what kind they are, and sometimes I just don't even bother. Today I'm not even gonna bother. And here's some philodendron micans. Again, I'm going to cut so that each piece has a little node. There is a Monstera siltepecana cutting that I took. I'm not gonna separate it. I think this would be a cute little starter plant once it roots. And then I have this stick from my exotica cutting, and it still has a node on there, so I'm just gonna chuck that in the jar as well. I'm gonna show you how I do my string of hearts propagations. So what I do for these is I trim all of the string parts off, and I just make little butterflies almost. I'll show you what I mean. I'm just gonna snip right there. I like to open the leaves up like this, and then I just press them into sphagnum moss. Once they root enough, you can actually just take the moss that they're rooted in and put it on top of soil, and they'll continue to grow into that for you. So they're really, really easy. I also have some variegated string of hearts in here, and then some string of spades. This is by far my favorite method to propagate string of hearts. You can also do them in water, but this way you're pretty much getting the most bang for your buck, so to speak, because you can grow a new piece from every single leaf. I have a little Hoya curtisii cutting, and I'm actually going to root this one the same way as the string of hearts. I find that it roots quite similarly. I typically like to root Hoyas in water or leca, but Hoya curtisii has such a small and delicate root system that I find it's easier to root it in moss or perlite, whatever you prefer. But I'm pretty much just doing the same thing. I'm cutting in between all of the little nodes there. You can see this piece already has some aerial roots. And I'm just going to stick those pieces down into the moss. We're done with this box for now. And this one, I have a bunch of Peperomia prostrata, or string of turtles, growing, and I think I might put some Peperomia ruby cascade in here with these. Gently nudge them over to one side of the container, so now I have this back half to work with. These kind of got a little tangled. So here I'm going to be doing something pretty similar. The Peperomias will pretty much root from anywhere on the strand. You can even root peperomias from just a single leaf. I'm going to just kind of snip these vines anywhere and just rest these pieces down in the moss. I found that peperomias really root the best when they have very high humidity. I feel like the same could be said for a lot of plants though. A lot of plants really enjoy humidity. Tropical plants anyway. So that's how that looks. I just kind of set them in there. What I have over here is some variegated wax ivy, a few different Hoyas, oh, and a couple peperomia hopes. So for the wax ivy, I actually prefer to root these guys in water. Just gonna snip there and chuck it in. I wonder if you guys can hear the thunder and lightning outside right now. So this leaf is kind of getting in my way, and although it's beautiful, I am gonna cut it off. And this roots really, really fast. I don't know why. Okay, same thing for peperomia hope. I like to root it in water. It seems to root faster in water for me. I also have some peperomia tetragona here. And then I have a little curly lipstick plant cutting, and normally I would remove all of the leaves from the bottom portion. Mine already did not have leaves there, so that made it easier, but you basically want to remove any leaf that's going to be in the water, otherwise you're increasing your chance of rot. I have a bunch of Hoya cuttings over here. I have some Hoya Crimson Queen and some Hoya Carnosa. And I have Hoya Crinkle 8 and Hoya Chelsea. Those I'm going to actually put in Leca though. Okay, this is not working out. I need a smaller jar for these. I'll be back. I found these little glass bottles I'm going to use instead for these smaller pieces. Sorry for the interruption. Jesse just got home. He is in the shower, so I'm sorry if you can hear that in the background, but we're just gonna carry on. So I have filled up my little jars, and now the only cuttings I have left are some Hoya Chelsea cuttings and some Hoya Crinkle 8 cuttings, and my preferred method of propagation for these guys is in Leca. So for that, I am going to grab my little net pots, and then I do have a bag of pre-washed Leca. A note, you have to wash Leca outside. It is not good for your pipes to rinse it indoors. And then basically what I'm going to do is fill it up with the Leca about halfway, and then just put my little cuttings down in there, and then I just fill in all the little gaps. Treat these pretty much the same as I do my water propagations. I just change the water out a couple times a week, and then I know that these are ready to be planted in soil once the roots are coming out of the basket. So fill this up about halfway. You don't want your leaves to be getting wet, but you do want the Leca to stay pretty consistently moist, just like that. And Hoya Chelsea, I will say, takes so long to root. It took me a good 6 to 8 months to get some ready to be planted. I had started some back in like October of last year, and I just was able to transfer them to soil about a month ago, which is crazy. Here I have some Crinkle 8 cuttings. Going to separate these. This one is not sitting in here like I wanted it to, so I might put that one in its own little pot. So sometimes if the leaves are too big to fit in one of these little cups, or for whatever reason it's not working, I will use a glass jar. And this one actually is an old pesto jar, but surprisingly this fits in there perfectly. So I use this for a lot of my plants that I keep in leca, actually. So that is everything for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye!